10, 9.
I think it is the human destiny to expand into outer space.
In the new race to space,
It's just a physical urge.
8, 6.
some will go for adventure.
If you go and you ask people, why do you want to go into space? The answer is the same. I want to experience zero-G.
And then you want to just float around for several minutes and just enjoy this.
And I want to see the view.
6, 5.
Some will find that every dream is shadowed by a nightmare.
Space is a hostile, dangerous place.
Because I was expecting a major breach of the station. I mean, where the air would just rush out.
Others will seek their fortunes.
What we really need are filling stations in space.
4.
And yet others will search for answers to where we fit in the universe.
We get signals all the time here. I mean, we got this huge antenna out the window here. We got this very sophisticated receiver. Of course, we pick up signals all the time. Every couple of seconds, another signal.
2, 1.
At the dawn of a new century, the thrill of space is back.
I think today we're entering the golden era of space travel.
I want to see the moon, of course.
Space.
And I would like to look down on the Earth.
What's coming next may be the greatest journey of all time. In July of 1969, 500,000 people of all races and ages gather from around the globe. Some trek for days and camp out to witness an event that was almost unimaginable only 10 years before. It isn't a march to protest the war in Vietnam or a rock concert in upstate New York. It is Apollo 11. On a small strip of the Florida coast, 3 astronauts prepare to reach for the moon. They are only minutes from attempting the greatest venture in human history. But as Apollo 11 tears itself from the launch pad and thunders into space, no one is certain if the mission will end in triumph or tragedy. Every step of the voyage is fraught with danger. But most harrowing is the stage never before attempted, landing on the moon. So risky is this venture, President Nixon has a eulogy prepared in case the lunar lander crashes or is stranded.
Altitude 42. Houston, you're go for landing, over.
As Armstrong and Aldrin approach the moon's surface, they realize the flight computer is steering them toward a boulder field. Armstrong seizes control, guiding the lander to a new spot more than 1,000 feet away.
Picking up some dust. 30 feet, 2.5 down. Straight shadow. Into the right a little. 1.5. 30 seconds. What was it? Contact light. Okay, engine stop. We copy you down, Eagle.
Only seconds of fuel remain in the lander's tank.
Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
In the history of humanity, a few rare moments are so transcendent as to unite us all.
Okay, Neil, we can see you coming down the ladder now.
On July 20th, 1969, 600 million people, a sixth of the planet's population, watch transfixed as the first human being steps onto an alien world.
That's one small step for man. One giant leap for mankind.
These were the glory days of space exploration. Nothing was easier to imagine than a succession of further triumphs. But then, something changed. We lost interest. Just 9 months after the first lunar landing, television networks broadcast soap operas instead of Apollo 13. It took an explosion on board and a life-and-death drama to grab our attention.
Houston, we've had a problem. Stand by 13, we're looking at it.
The space program again seemed to fade from public view after Apollo 13 returned safely. In 1986, NASA tried to rekindle America's passion for space by demonstrating that it was open to anyone. They flew Krista McAuliffe, high school teacher and mother of 2, aboard the Shuttle Challenger.
Space shuttle mission, and it has cleared the tower.
Much of the nation, including McAuliffe's family and students, watched in horror as the disaster played out on television.
Flight Frontal. Go ahead. RSO reports vehicle exploded.
Yes, sir, it's the LSO. Okay, are there any forces headed out that way?
Yes, sir. DoD LSO reports that all SAR forces have been scrambled and they are on their way.
The world began to wonder if space was worth the risk of human life. Now, at the turn of the 21st century, we find ourselves clinging to a small outpost on the fringe of space, and it's a tired, tattered one. The Russian space station Mir was built to last 5 years, but has been made to serve more than twice as long. Mir has aged into a bulky old vehicle. Systems switch on and off without warning. As American astronauts would discover, Mir was not only quirky, it had become downright dangerous. Some are drawn to space because they want to learn what lies beyond. Others crave the raw experience. Children from all walks share this dream of reaching space. But few have the persistence and talent to make it a reality.
This is a moment that takes me back to when I was about 6 years old and I first decided I wanted to be an astronaut. This is looking up at your rocket, and this sends shivers down my spine every time I think about it.
NASA astronaut Michael Foale grew up in England, the son of a Royal Air Force pilot and an American mother. While on a childhood visit to the States, Foale saw John Glenn's capsule on a national tour. From that moment, he wanted to soar into the sky. Foale was accepted into the astronaut class of 1987. He stood out even among this elite corps. On his third shuttle mission, Foale and his crewmates circled the Russian space station Mir. Foale instantly felt its allure.
At that time, I can remember seeing Yelena Kondakova in the window there, and she would wave and say, "Hey, we want you to come and have tea." And I said, with pleasure. And that was about the limit of my Russian. And unfortunately, we couldn't stop and have tea. We had to back away. And I said, some other time.
Mir has its grip on Foale. In 2 years, he will return, the 5th American to live aboard the station. In his more than 4 months on board, Michael Foale will learn that Mir is a place where dreams collide with reality. He will experience the terror of space, as well as the wonder.
The great attraction of space is that that is sort of the incubator of everything. And the mysteries of existence, the origins of the universe, the presence of, call it a God, resides out there. And I think one of the motives for going into space or studying space is trying to understand our place in the cosmos.
One astronomer's obsession with our place in the heavens drives him to the remote hills of Puerto Rico. Twice a year, Seth Shostak travels to an enormous radio telescope to listen for signs of extraterrestrial life. Sharp cuts in funding and years of hearing only false alarms have done nothing to deter Shostak. For him, the search itself is irresistible.
You know, it's like that carrot in front of you, because that carrot seems to be getting bigger. Every year we do this, the equipment's a little better, we can check out a few more star systems, and you know, I wouldn't do it if I didn't think there was some reasonable hope that within my lifetime we're going to pick up that signal that tells us what we want to know.
Are we alone? Who or what is out there? Are they like us?
Every previous generation wondered about this. You know, they look up and they wonder if there's anybody looking down. I can be a member of that first generation that can actually look back up and maybe find out if there's something up there.
Built by Cornell University and the United States Air Force in the 1960s, the 1,000-foot diameter Arecibo radio telescope is one of the most sensitive on Earth. For Shostak, it's like a huge hearing aid tuned to the murmurings of the cosmos.
This little speck of metal is picking up signals that might be coming from hundreds of trillions of miles. It's like a tin can with a string that runs up 100 trillion miles. We could hear a cell phone on Jupiter, if there were any. That's how sensitive this system is. What we're listening for is not so much the aliens per se, but their equipment, if you will. We're listening for a transmitter. We're not asking of the aliens that they build huge interstellar transports a la the Starship Enterprise and go from world to world. We're only asking that they build a simple transmitter that any teenager could put together on a tabletop and use a decent-sized antenna.
Two years after seeing Mir for the first time, Foal joins its Russian crew for a 4.5-month mission. He is replacing American Jerry Lininger, who appears eager to leave.
Hi, Mike. Welcome to your new home.
Foal knows that a fire broke out during Lininger's stay, and that the ship's cooling system leaks toxic antifreeze.
The hatch closed. I thought, well, here I am on Mir. And at that very moment, Vasily turned towards me and said, in Russian, because they didn't speak English at all, "Well, Mike, now we're going to beat you." And so began my time on Mir.
A joke by Commander Vasily Tsibliev, meant to both welcome and caution Foal. The Russians understand Mir's problems, and they want to know if this rookie can handle the challenge. It proves a fair warning. Foal has embarked on one of the most harrowing missions in the history of exploration. In space, it is a narrow margin that separates life from death. Orbiting 250 miles above Earth, Mir is a pioneering craft, a frontier port where men and women have shattered space endurance records. But records aren't broken without risk and pain. Mike Foal's first weeks on Mir pass without incident. But 1 month into the mission, Foal's Russian crewmates, engineer Sasha Lazutkin and Commander Vasily Tsibliev, prepare to test a manual docking system. Vasily will use a remote steering system and a camera to guide this supply ship of the Progress class to Mir. But as the 8-ton vessel draws closer, it becomes more difficult to track. Vasily is flying blind. He calls to his crewmates, telling them to look for the Progress through Mir's windows. Foal and Sasha can't see the incoming vessel anywhere. Vasily fears the Progress is approaching too fast. He applies reverse thrusters, but to no avail. Seconds pass. Then suddenly, the progress looms into view. It's out of control and headed right at them. Sasha orders Foal to the Soyuz, Mir's lifeboat.
So I flew through the air from the back of the base block to the Soyuz. I felt this big ka-thump.
Air starts to rush out of Mir.
I then felt the pressure falling in my ears fast. I thought, this is a pretty serious leap. The adrenaline was very, very strong because I was expecting a major breach of the station. I mean, where the air will just rush out, like, you get sucked out of it, basically. My immediate thought was, we are leaving the station. We have all got to get into the Soyuz, and that's it.
Mir's pressure alarm blares. If they can't seal the breach in 30 minutes, Foal and his crewmates will have to evacuate. Throughout history, explorers and pioneers have had to face terrible dangers. Vasco da Gama, Columbus, and Magellan put their lives at risk to blaze trails into the unknown. On the heels of heroes come entrepreneurs. Companies are now chasing profits as satellite communication is woven into the fabric of everyday life. Getting these satellites into orbit is a competitive and risky enterprise. In the race for money, the space business is spreading to unlikely places around the globe. When it comes to launches, French Guiana is hot, hot, hot. Built in 1968, a space center has electrified this once quiet country.
The Space Center is not only playing a role of sending satellites into the orbit, but it's playing also a role in human relation, because here is a melting pot of all races. The Space Center has given an economic boost to the economy of Guyana.
From the coastal jungle, a French-led company called Ariane Space has carved out one of the most advanced launch sites in the world.
We are situated here in French Guiana simply because this is the best site in the world for launching commercial satellites.
Competitors who launch farther from the equator need more fuel to lift their payloads into coveted orbits over the equator. From Kourou, French Guiana, a satellite has a shorter and cheaper path into equatorial orbit.
We have the most reliable launcher, 5 years without a failure. We launch every month, about 12 launches a year.
And demand just keeps growing. It will take several years for Ariane Space to work through its backlog of launches.
While we are signing a contract in New York, a satellite is being shipped at the same time to Kourou. The launcher for that satellite is ready to go, and while we are readying that launcher, another launcher is being assembled, and a third launcher is being shipped in pieces from Europe to Kourou. So it's a permanent, year-long, 24-hour launch activity. We bring your own customers here in Kourou to actually see the launch. We bring your engineers to process the satellites, and we do the full service from Earth to space. That's our business.
The customer comes first in the new race for space. So Ariane Space has mastered the art of wining and dining. Jungle boat cruise, anyone? After a day of sightseeing, it's time for the real business at hand. Placing a communications satellite worth hundreds of millions of dollars at just the right spot, 22,000 miles above the equator. The night of the launch, clients assemble at a safe distance where they can relax and enjoy the show.
Bienvenue à Kourou, en Guyane française, le port.
Greetings, everybody, wherever you may be, and welcome to Kourou, the home of Ariane, for tonight's live broadcast of Ariane space flight number 126. Launching Galaxy 10R for PanAmSat this evening, first launch of the new year. The show's going to be a good one. We hope you'll stay with us.
The ground crew is under pressure to maintain its long string of successes.
And I have to say, it's a very, very exciting business when you have once a month this huge thing flying into space and all these people working on it.
Attention pour le décompte final. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, stop. Allumage. Décollage.
Another successful launch. And so the party begins in earnest.
Being on the equator for launching satellites is such a tremendous advantage that our competitors are desperately trying to find an equatorial site.
To compete with Arianespace, a secretive rival will journey to one of the most remote places on Earth. Using extraordinary gear that belongs in a James Bond movie, they will create their own equatorial launch site in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. In Long Beach, California, a company called Sea Launch has assembled a dream team of scientists and mariners. Their mission? To launch satellites from a platform at sea. Mission Director Steve Thielen marvels at the talent Sea Launch has assembled.
I mean, whoever thought I'd been out here launching Western-style spacecraft on a Russian rocket on a Norwegian platform out in the middle of the Pacific. I mean, this is really cool.
Sea Launch uses a rocket originally designed to fire nuclear warheads at the United States. Today, it carries a payload more in tune with the times, a telecommunications satellite. Sea Launch will journey across the Pacific Ocean to a spot on the equator, 1,400 miles south of Hawaii. 2 vessels will make the expedition. One is an oil platform converted into a self-propelled launch pad. The other, a specially built command ship that will carry 200 Russian, Ukrainian, and American engineers and scientists on the 3-week trip. Relations are good on this international team.
The Russians are just such professionals. It's just an honor to be working with them. Some of the best rocket scientists in the world, basically. It's neat to see the past come forward to the future of space.
The state-of-the-art Mission Command Center is actually 2 control rooms in one. Russian-speaking specialists will work on one side, English-speaking Americans on the other. Coordination must be seamless for the launch to succeed. A similar collaboration was put to a sharper test on board Mir. With air pressure dropping because of a collision, the 2 Russians and 1 American have only minutes to close off a punctured module or abandoned ship. But cables block a hatchway that must be sealed.
These cables now that were being disconnected, there's about 18 of them, were like big snakes, and they just kind of got in the way. So Sash would pass the cable to me, I'd tie it off.
With the passageway finally cleared, the 2 struggled to seal the hatch.
As soon as it went in place, without even doing any latches, it kind of went and sucked in. And at that point, I immediately felt the pressure stop falling.
They've closed off the leaking module, but Mir is now crippled as they approach the dark side of Earth.
Now, the station, which was tumbling, hadn't been able to orient its solar rays to the sun, and we had basically used up all of the battery power that was left. And so all the lights started to go off, the fans went off that moved the air around, and we lost communications with the ground.
Foale and his crewmates face a desperate situation. Without power, they have no heaters, no computers, no oxygen generators. For the first time, Mir becomes deathly quiet.
Really ironically, it was some of the most beautiful and memorable experience I ever had on the Mir, because we were passing over the southern tip of Tierra del Fuego towards Antarctica. And there were extraordinary curtains of green and red shimmering across the curve of the Earth. And we kind of would just float there in front of the window, mostly saying nothing.
Russians and Americans at sea launch are preoccupied with safety. Already fueled, the satellite payload is added to the rocket. Then the sea launch crew cautiously transfers the rocket to the launch platform. The Russians insisted on the twin-ship plan because of its extra margin of safety. All personnel will evacuate the launch platform for liftoff. The rocket is safely cradled in the launch platform hangar. Sea Launch is now ready for the 3,000-mile journey to the equator. In the age-old seafaring tradition, Sea Launch's voyage to the equator begins with a farewell party on the dock.
Future rocket sciences.
Friends and loved ones come to see the Sea Launch crew off. Steve Thielen will be away from his family for almost a month. The two Sea Launch vessels set out for the equator. At sea, Russians, Norwegians, and Americans tend to live and play apart. The dining room offers a multi-ethnic cuisine, and each nationality gravitates to its own tables. The Norwegian captain, Tormod Hansen, was initially skeptical of this international undertaking.
When I first heard about it, I thought it was a joke. I didn't really believe it. Russian rockets being launched with American satellites, a combination of American and Russian scientists and Norwegian Marine. I thought it was a little bit unreal.
But after 10 days at sea, everything is going without a hitch. Sea Launch is nearing its destination. Everyone is of one mind. All are totally focused on blasting their rocket into orbit. The launch platform now sits exactly at the equator. There is no more efficient launch location for reaching equatorial orbit.
We have such accurate station-keeping ability. The platform is right on the equator, and you can literally come out here and straddle the equator, walk from one end of the ship to the other end of the ship, and cross the equator.
Huge pumps flood the platform's pontoons and pylons with 19,000 tons of seawater. It settles 70 feet into the sea, stabilized in the swell. The crew rolls the rocket out of its hangar onto the deck of the launch platform. They slowly erect the 200-foot rocket. A bridge connects the two ships. The crew from the launch platform can now evacuate in preparation for the nighttime blastoff. The command ship sails 3 miles away in case the rocket explodes on the pad. As liftoff time nears, a rare spectacle at sea unfolds. The captain of the launch platform leaves his ship. Steve Thielen and his international team check, then double-check every system.
Marine operations.
Sea Launch has a 1-second window for launch if they're to place the satellite in exactly the right orbit. Months of preparation and thousands of hours of work now come down to this. Can the team do everything perfectly without even a second of leeway?
It's a very high level of intensity. Basically, I'm focused on what's going on, what potential problems could come up, the concentration it takes, the butterflies you get in your stomach prior to launch.
10, 9, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
We have a liftoff.
All looks good at blastoff, but then something goes terribly wrong. 140 miles above Earth, the rocket shuts down prematurely. The satellite fails to reach orbit. A software glitch may have caused a single valve to stay open, dooming the mission. It's a costly setback. But Sea Launch is already planning its next launch. Nothing about rockets is easy. Defying gravity remains an exasperating challenge. Many are pursuing radically new ideas about how to reach space.
Just a few months ago, I got all these proposals by physicists proposing wacky, crazy mechanisms for one of NASA's advanced propulsion systems that may one day take us to nearby stars. I laughed to myself a bit. These are serious physicists making serious proposals, making a shot in the dark, because that's what it may take for us to go to the distant planets.
Like others who hope to revolutionize space travel, propulsion physicist Lake Mirabeau was inspired early in life.
Sputnik and also Echo flew about the same year. My grandmother got me up out of bed, middle of the night, and brought me outside and actually showed me one of these first satellites flying overhead. It was just astounding. It was an amazing experience.
With NASA backing, Mirabeau has traveled to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. Here, he will test whether a laser beam can be used to push specially made fabrics through space.
Science fiction writers have been writing about laser sails, huge, ultra-thin sails like spider webs covered with reflective surfaces, kilometers in diameter. We're actually testing 5 new laser sail materials. Now, the sails aren't very big. They're only about a couple inches across, 2 inches across. But what we're doing is we're flooding that with 10 to 100,000 watts of laser energy. This is a ferocious environment. But frankly, we don't know how well these will survive. And until you actually do tests like this, you don't know where you stand. And that's what these tests are about. So it's incredibly exciting. Yeah, this is brand new. The weight of these sail materials has to be nothing. I mean, you're talking about butterfly wings. Will it burn up? You know, will it just turn into ashes and fall to the bottom of the vacuum tank? We don't know. But we are simulating a space environment that's evacuated to an incredibly low pressure that simulates space.
If these delicate prototypes can withstand the burst of light, Mirabeau's dream of a starship carried by a large laser sail will be one step closer to reality.
Run number 1, pendulum number 1.
Great arm.
Incredibly, it works. The force of light alone has pushed the miniature sail without incinerating it.
This is good. This is very good. I'm happy. All right.
A real laser sailcraft would require a colossal building project. Much of the work might take place on a future lunar colony. Thousands of solar-powered lasers would have to be built. Each laser would be rolled out to a runway, where it would be packaged for the quick trip to Earth orbit. A railway lined with powerful magnets would accelerate the laser to escape the moon's gravity. The laser slows as it approaches a gargantuan array of lasers under construction. A worker fits the new laser into place. Nearby, in Earth orbit, a laser sail unfurls. Half a mile across. It might carry a robot craft for exploring distant worlds. When the laser array is complete, 100 billion watts of light will strike the sail. Bouncing off the sail, the light beam inches it forward. The craft gradually picks up speed. It passes Jupiter, and after years of travel, it could approach another star at close to the speed of light. Near the end of its mission, a smaller sail carrying the probe would separate. The small sail slows, perhaps to enter orbit around a planet, to search for alien life. But we are decades away from mastering the technology that Lake Mirabeau is pioneering. Today, it's still an overwhelming task to maintain and power a craft like Mir. After sealing the punctured module on Mir, the top priority for Michael Foale and his crewmates is restoring power. Vasily fires thrusters to stabilize Mir. He points the station's solar panels toward the sun in order to recharge its batteries. But time and again, computer crashes cause Mir to tumble. Nothing is easy in space.
Space is a hostile, dangerous place. More dangerous than any place we've ever ventured on Earth. There are a lot of places on Earth that have killed people, ascending Mount Everest. There's a lot one has to overcome.
When Columbus sailed the ocean blue, he just had storms to worry about. Astronauts have radiation storms to worry about, micrometeorites that can pierce the hull of their system. They're going to be facing all sorts of unknown dangers.
On Mir, the crew grows exhausted. They seem cursed. Each time they resolve one crisis, another arises. Sasha accidentally unplugs the computer, sending Mir tumbling again. Russian ground controllers decide it's time to cut back on the workload.
We kind of did really relax. We actually watched 1 or 2 movies. We watched Apollo 13 in the airlock together, which I translated for them.
But as his tour on Mir draws to an end, Foale still isn't free from worry. On September 27, 1997, he watches the shuttle Atlantis approach.
Even though I should be relaxing and just looking forward to the arrival, I was starting to become quite tense that the shuttle wouldn't be able to dock and take me off because of one of these computer problems. I saw this beautiful sight rising up from the blue of the earth towards us, so slowly compared to our progress, so controlled compared to our progress, with hardly any immediate motion noted for about 10 seconds between each change that they made in their flight profile. Joined up perfectly to our docking port, and this enormous relief gushed out of me. And at that point, I knew I was home.
Home. As he pulls away from Mir, Foale takes what may be a last glimpse of his second home. After more than 4 harrowing months in space that challenged his stamina and courage, Foale now hopes for a trouble-free ride to Earth.
And I have 2 white ones, red ones left. Okay, awesome.
He returns to a vibrant world, one filled with color and life, a sharp contrast to Mir. In the middle of the Mojave Desert lives a man who may well profit from space travel. His name is Bert Rutan.
Is that just a dog? How about a duck? Cat? Can you do a cat? Yes, bye.
Rutan thinks and lives outside the box. Rutan's edgy designs have made aviation history, and he's enjoying the ride.
Work? Oh, I haven't worked since 1974. This is all play. It's a simple concept, actually. People have fun, they're very productive.
Rutan runs Scaled Composites, a company that designs and builds cutting-edge aircraft. One of Rutan's latest projects embodies his philosophy. First, throw out the rule book. The result is his plane Proteus. This spindly craft can carry a 1-ton payload to the stratosphere, 11 miles into the air. Proteus might one day lift a manned rocket capsule. When the aircraft reaches altitude, the capsule would detach, blast into orbit under its own power, then glide back to Earth.
Okay, power's coming up.
Taxi in, 1 mile straight in, with gear, 22, full stop.
It's looking good. The powers are great. I'm going to leave the power set there. Controls are alive, feeling good. They're rotating.
Off, get the gear.
Gear's coming.
Okay, 110 would be a good speed to hold.
If your ambition is to do a suborbital flight, you want to go to altitude to show whoever goes up there, and I want to go too,
what it looks like from orbit. And then you want to just float around for several minutes and just enjoy this, weightless. You know, bring your house cat or your lover or whatever you want to do for this time while you're weightless. Yeah, you just can't do that on Earth, baby.
But if you're single or cat-free, what would you do in orbit?
Who wants to be the first to see the Earth from orbit while they're sipping a martini? And maybe there are people out there who will do this. I don't have enough money to do it. Perhaps if I did that, I would certainly do it. But the question is not whether some people have enough money, but there's enough interest to keep it sustained and to drive the industry to invent the technology in the first place.
Remember, people used to ask the same questions about air travel. Why in God's name would you want to do that? How practical could that possibly be?
This whole notion of space tourism is really a chance to get the economics going. A business where there are thousands of launches, money coming back in, people designing new vehicles, bringing the price down, and we go from suborbital flights to orbital flights onto hotels and onto the moon, and it's a tremendous opportunity.
Hi guys, good morning. My name is Peter Diamandis. I'm the chairman of the X Prize.
Peter Diamandis is offering an incentive to the potential Lindberghs of the 21st century.
High school. So we're looking for a new generation of rocket scientists out there who can go and build launch vehicles to carry us into space.
We're trying to make this on top of here and with the parachute in here and put this up so when it goes up...
He is holding out a prize to any kid who can design a water rocket that will safely return its fragile passenger, a raw egg, to Mother Earth.
What we're trying to do here is to give kids a chance to get hands-on and feel the competitive spirit and learn how to build these rockets and get into it so that they can relate. It's really neat to look at the designs, and in particular to know that the teachers here aren't giving them the answers. Everything they've designed here is coming out of experimental, their own imagination, and to see the way that they're getting their egg to survive is pretty awesome. You're gonna put the cup in there, the whole 9 yards. They've got to design this vehicle that can have the egg safely survive, and they get the idea that when it cracks, that egg is dead.
Across town, students from another school build their own rockets for the upcoming competition. One, Jaquie Rogers, has done her
You want me to
homework.
start putting the holes in it? The thing that surprised me about space that I have learned is about the moon. And it was fascinating to me because I learned that there was no wind on the moon, that Neil Armstrong's footprints are still up there. And I learned about the craters and how they got there.
Destiny Voyager is now complete.
Launch day arrives.
What we're gonna do is we're gonna give you guys a chance to put your astronauts in your rockets, and you should be done doing that by the time we get ready to launch with these guys.
The pad and fuel prepared.
Everybody got an astronaut. Everybody's got fuel.
And the future rocket cadre tries to look nonchalant.
There we go.
Unusual designs create their own unique set of snafus.
This happens at NASA all the time, you guys. In fact, the shuttle was delayed the other day because they had a bunch of strings tangled up. Rocket is secure on the pad.
All systems are go. The launch director receives the green light.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2,
1. Launching these rockets is easy. It's the landing that's hard. Today's lesson, to become a rocket scientist, you've got to crack a few eggs.
Get it back. Excellent. Parachute's open.
Any one of these students could grow up to design rockets or spacecraft. Some may get the chance to leave Earth, or even to walk on another world. Whatever it is in our nature that drove us to the moon can be found in these kids and will continue to spur humanity upward and outward.
If I could go up into space, I would want to gaze upon the sun. I would like to look down on the Earth and Mars. And I would like to find new things that have never been found. I want to see the moon, of course. And the first thing that I would search for was where Neil Armstrong left the flag and his footprints. And that's the main thing that I'd be searching for.
In terms of exploration, I think in 50 to 100 years, we will have most definitely facilities on the moon. We'll have factories there. We'll have people who are living there. We'll have hotels there, of course. We'll have the first real self-sufficient and vibrant colonies on Mars. But what makes me excited are going to be actual independent societies off-planet, in free space, colonies. I think it'll be very much like it was in the 14 and 1500s, where there were different groups who were going off exploring and fantasizing about where the best trails are, where the best next new worlds are. And that's the future I'm building towards. I'm one of those explorers and can't wait to go off, towards that star over there.
To travel to distant stars and establish colonies seems fantastic today, but we're not even close to reaching the limit of what's possible.
Oh, in my day, to think of going up and breaking the sound barrier, well, that was out of the question, period. No, we'd never break the sound barrier. So you see how things can change. And then, would anybody ever go to the moon? Oh, that was really ridiculous. Well, we've gone to the moon.
Is it our destiny to cross the galaxy? If it was once inconceivable to reach the moon, what vaulting ambitions could become reality tomorrow? We have already begun an amazing journey that will carry us beyond the reach of our imaginations. We are entering an era that will unfetter even dreamers.
The cosmic perspective is inextricably bound to our growing awareness of how tiny we are in this universe and how frail we are in this universe, combined with simply how big and grand the universe is. Now, that might sound depressing. For me, it's only momentarily depressing. With that knowledge, we can all participate in this journey, in this quest, to reach the edge of the universe and then perhaps see what's on the other side.